Morning, ladies. Morning. So nice to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming, Trinny. We are so excited to have you here today, aren't we? And I mean, let's go right to the start of everything. When did you know that you wanted to, because you're such a style, beauty, fashion guru, when did you know that this was your calling?
Probably I'll take it back to when I was about 7. And I had been at a day school in England. I've lived all my life in Kensington, Chelsea, apart from when I lived abroad. And I had been quite naughty at school, and my parents had decided to send me to boarding school. But it was very young to go to boarding school. And when I was there, I was the only one who lived abroad. So I had more unusual clothing. And I would spend my time, I feel I need to do this so I see everyone. I'd spend my time making over my friends from school. And I really enjoyed it. I was terrible at school, and I always was the bottom of the class. And it was that thing that gave me a bit of self-worth. It all stems from what gives us self-worth, doesn't it? But I loved it. And I had one other friend who lived in Italy, and Benetton, let's age ourselves, hadn't yet come to the UK. And it was the most exciting proposition for us that wasn't M&S and wasn't the expensive clothes my mother would never dream of buying me. And so I remember whenever she came back, I'd take her new Benetton things and mix them up and put them on different people. So it probably came from that. I did many things before I got back to that place. But it was just the immediate sense of a transformation of somebody to make them feel better. And I love that feeling that it could give somebody.
And your break was, of course, when you started writing the column with Susanna for The Telegraph.
Yeah.
So how did it come about? How did you start?
Well, I hadn't gone to university, and I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and my dad was very successful and then fell off a cliff and then slightly recovered. So I looked up to him a lot. I wanted to be a banker to begin with, or something in finance, but I had no qualifications, so I ended up in the arse end of commodities with 60 men on a trading floor and me wearing men's suits to try and fit in, and just a nightmare. Partied far too hard, woke up again at age 26, having done that and a bit of PR and a few other things, and realized, what do I really love doing? And I had, at the time, there was no place that I could get inspiration to shop as somebody on a budget. And everything in Vogue magazine would be if it was from the high street, and there weren't many high street shops then, it would be a sample made up just for Vogue, but it would never be sold. So there was this tremendous frustration, which some of you on my age would remember that. And I kind of got together with Susanna through a friend. I knew I wanted to do something to do with presenting what was available. And we chatted, and then she said at the end of the conversation, can I take your idea? And I went, no, but we could do it together. And then she'd been writing about women's cricket at the Telegraph. And the editor there, typical middle-aged, lovely man, said, well, I'm leaving motoring, and I'm going to do weekend. Should we do cars and fashion? So Susanna said, well, meet my friend Trinny. I think we've got something else. So he gave us this incredibly lucky break in a national newspaper to have a page to talk about, what not to wear and what to wear. And we did that for about 7 years. And it sort of evolved as it went on. It was really important for us to say what we thought was great, but what we thought wasn't great. And to have the objectivity you can get in a newspaper where you haven't got advertising constraints like a magazine, to be able to say, I really think this is bad, or a waste of money. And we then started to use our own bodies, and Susanna was a different shape. So that then evolved, and from that, a woman called Diana Nelms, who was starting Granada Sky, was looking for some very inexpensive TV shows, and we did a show called Girls Who Shop, trashed. I mean, thank God there's no tapes left, which we filmed regionally for Granada, and then we filmed some in our own home. But the budget was about £1,000 a show. We literally used our dogs as props and our nieces and nephews as the models. It was a disaster. But it got us into the idea of TV. And then we did a pilot for the BBC, and we did a dot-com business, which was a disaster, but had 2 years of excitement in that dot-com boom. And then we got a call from the BBC when everything I thought was I was winding down the business. I'd built up this business very quickly in 1999. and I'd raised £600,000 in 2 weeks. And I had then an opportunity to raise more, so I raised £7 million and built up a team of 60 people. And it was really the proposition. I know this is my daughter calling. There's only one person, 2 people who call me, so I'm just gonna tell her actually that she, sorry, there she is, Lila missed call.
That it was mine.
I'm going to put it onto, I'm sorry, I'm just going to put it AirPlay and then she'll call me. Yeah, she's calling me again. Lila, I'm in the middle of talking to 300 people. No, I don't care, it's so important. Bunny, I have to go. I'm in the middle of talking. Okay, bye. Okay, all right. Sorry,
This is so cute, actually, because, you know, she calls you.
I try not to ever not take her call, because she needs that. Where was I? Yes. Where was I?
BBC called.
Yeah, so the BBC called. When, you know, I don't know how many of you here we've all had careers that go in fits and troughs. And if it's a career that's about being a wife, it could be a few marriages. But, you know, well, we have cycles. And I think that, you know, there's times in my career, like I was so excited to do that .com thing originally, but it was way too early. And what's interesting when I look back at that is there's 2 things I get from it. One is really trust your intuition when you think you've got a good idea, because it's very important. And you might be the only one who has belief in it at the time, but if you really believe it and you believe it in your whole body, go for it. The other thing is don't grow too quickly and hire middle management. And in that business, because we got such a rush of cash, we hired quite a few people who sort of cruised in our business, and that was one reason it failed. The other reason it failed probably it was way too early, because I wanted to give an opportunity. A woman goes online, says, this is me, this is my body shape, this is my beauty routine, and get me the clothes and the hair and the makeup. Kind of what Trinny London will become now, 10, 15 years later. But at the time, there was nobody else online selling stuff. So I was sending them all back to the high street, not making any money, photographing 6,000 pieces of clothing every season. And then you'd put in your body shape and you'd say, I want a red dress for under 60 quid, and we'd show you one. But you'd go to Topshop and buy it, and we wouldn't get anything from it. So, I mean, anyway.
You were right on track. I mean,
we're on track,
yeah,
but, you know, just,
too early,
you know, too early. And then when suddenly you have a financial, in 2001, it was very difficult to raise money. And suddenly, you know, people said, we wanted to see you getting into profit in 2 years, and you can't, so that was it. So Susanna went off to have a second baby, and I had to close business down and lay off 60 women, which was really difficult. And it was very important to me. They all got a redundancy package, and that kind of ate up all the money of the business. So I remember I was kind of sitting there in this tiny office, which we'd moved to, thinking, what next, you know? And I've had many times in my life like that where I have no idea what's behind that closed door. And you can make your possibilities smaller and smaller and smaller until you feel so hopeless and helpless. And I was in that really, really flat stage, and I decided to go off and do this 1 week kind of spiritually recovery thing in Arizona. And I went there for a week, and I just practiced living in the moment. You know, it's a very, very, very difficult thing to do. You live in a big city, you've got a lot on your plate, but living in the moment is something I know I rarely do. But when I do, I feel my most content. And so I just had a week of doing that intensely. And I came back, and 6 days after I came back, the BBC rang and said, you know, we did this pilot with you last year, we would like to do it. And it was like I'd opened up. You know, there's that really book, that book that's so corny, which all of us, like 50 Shades of Grey, The Secret, might admit we've read a chapter or two. But I remember reading that book and thinking, oh my God. And I know so many women who practice it very well, because there's some good basic principles in it. But it's that thing of making space in your life for what might come in. And so, in a way, I just made space in my head, taken out the buzziness, and then that call came. And then I started on the next stage of my career, which lasted about 15 years.
It was huge, wasn't it? I mean, it was a big hit. And why do you think it was such a huge success? I mean, around the world also, people, you know, watched the series. Do you think it was your frank approach, your different approach, your innovative approach with the mirrors and things like that? What do you think was the secret?
I think it was probably a mixture of things, because for those of you who were watching TV at that time, we had the closed show, which we'd had years before, and then there hadn't been anything really for women on TV. And it was quite a direct approach. I never felt it was a ruthless show, because I keep in touch with quite a few of those women, and, you know, I think when you do TV shows, you have two characters, and I think this is what I've discovered by now being on my own and doing my social media, is Susanna and I are quite different characters, but we have some similarities. And when we were edited, it was very much, I was the kind of direct focus, just did one, and Susanna was the curvy, emotional, hourglassy one. And that was really good, and it worked incredibly well for the show. And so there was that mixture of being tough, making you look at yourself, and choosing interesting women. And there were little tweaks that were novel then. You know, the secret filming, which now is prevalent, is actually a trend that's no longer really around. The 360-degree mirror, because it was like so revealing. And the show did well. And what was really interesting then, I'd done a book before called Girls Ready to Dress, and it literally sold 13,000 copies. And I'd loved making that book, and they pulped the end of it because it didn't sell so well. So when we did What Not to Wear, our agent at the time, a guy called Ed Victor, said, look, why don't you do another book? And we thought, oh, should we? But I'd always wanted to do the simple, you know, What Not to Wear kind of book with Susanna. And so we did this book, and we did a deal with Weidenfeld. And they said, okay, we'll pay you a really low royalty, but if you sell over 15,000 copies, we'll give you 15%. And that was probably a huge breakthrough for us, because we sold on that book 1 million copies, and then I went on to sell about 3 million books over, 8 books, 9 books actually. And so that was very interesting, but sometimes you're so caught up in what's going on that you don't realize how, what's interesting is when I look today at people who overnight are successful, and you see this a lot in Instagram and YouTube, and people who are 17 who overnight have 20 million people around the world following them. For Susanna and I, it's a very different thing. First of all, we were both 30 when it happened, so we both were kind of seasoned. You know, we had our friendship groups. I wasn't suddenly going to have lots of celebrity friends, because I have friends that I've had, since I was 13, 15. And we lived in our world, so we'd go out and do book signings and would make our show, but I wasn't living in that whole, oh, look at how much we're doing. And I remember my editor rang me up and said, you sold 47,000 books this week. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. And I said, is that good? And they went, so I look back now and I think it was fantastic. And it was fantastic. And I think, we made 5 shows with the BBC, and then they didn't want us to do any advertising for anything else, and Susanna and I wanted to buy a house, and they didn't pay great, the BBC. So we went to ITV, and then we did 3 seasons with ITV, and then it was over in the UK. So there was that 10 years where we'd done a lot, we'd established a concept, and then suddenly there were lots of other people in that field doing it, like Gok Wan and Nikki Hambledon, whatever. And I remember probably in the last year of that, I'd become quite, not jaded, but it was like, oh, we've got to make another show. And then over a year, suddenly the work dried up, and we were like, God, what's next? Bought a big house, big mortgage. And we then got a call from, we made these magic knickers, and we got a call from a Belgium company, because we made them in Belgium, saying, will you come over to Belgium and do a TV show? National British TV, sold BBC around the world to 45 countries. Will you come to Belgium and make a TV show? We went, yeah, we'll come, definitely. So we then spent 3 years. We made that show, and that show was taken to MIPCOM, or it's a TV conference in Cannes. I can't remember the name of it now. And so our agent called up and said, there's 16 countries who want to do the show. And I just thought they wanted to buy the format. And he said, no, they want you to come to those countries and make that show. So Suzanne and I thought, well, there's nothing in England. It'd be really interesting to see, does this concept work in other countries? So then I spent the next 3 countries going to Israel, Germany, India, Australia, Norway, Sweden, Holland, Belgium, all these countries making this show. And it was it was very interesting for me, because it made me realize that whichever country you're in, and whichever culture you're in, and whichever religion you are, women have similar issues. And so that's kind of all of that I see as a permanent research of how I see women and how I can talk to women. And we probably worked 3 times as hard for a 5th of the money. So it was really grafting. And Susanna had 3 children. I had Lila by then. And we worked 9 months of the year. I'd leave London on a Sunday night. I'd get back on a Friday night. And I did that for 9 months, and I lived in hotel rooms. And it was very tough, and my husband at the time, who had gone through periods of being well and unwell, you know, when he was unwell and I was working abroad and Lila was there, it was very, very difficult. That balance is always tremendously difficult. And I have also a stepson, Zach, and when his dad wasn't that well, I felt a responsibility also for Zach, who I'd known since he was 2. So that was probably the hardest time in my life of that work-life balance. And knowing that, you know, I could downsize everything, but I knew the quality of life I wanted to give to Lila, and I knew I needed to earn a certain amount of money. And weirdly, I was sort of overqualified in the UK for, it wouldn't have been easy for me to get a job in the UK because I had a unique qualification which only fit a certain few things. So that's what I did. But after 3 years, Lila was then 8, and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. This is a time she really needs me.
You always talk about these 10-year cycles in your life.
Yeah.
The 20s, the 30s, the 40s. So, and you are very upfront and honest about the ups and downs of your life, as you were talking about the difficulties, and you went through all these cycles of IVF, and you're talking about the balance for women. I think we always think about this, how you can, but then when you reach that point in your life, you managed to find a whole new lease after 50, and you always also talk about that. And how was that transition from, you know, your late 40s, you're in this difficult position, then you're reinventing yourself, you have become a social media star, an influencer, and now you have your own company. And how is this, you know,
the cycles?
Ups and downs, yeah.
I think if I put my life into decades, I'll say my 20s were about really trying to find out who I was, and the most painful time of my life, actually. My 30s were about building a career. My 40s were about, well, late 30s and 40s were about trying to have a child. I took a long time to get ready to have a child, and I have a complicated relationship with my mother. So it took me a while, but I then knew I really wanted to, and then when I knew I really wanted to, I couldn't really easily conceive, and that was when I was about 35. So it took me 4 years, 5 years actually. And I did 9 IVF, I lost 3 babies, and it was really difficult. And I think in that, the work I'd done on myself through, you know, being in recovery, etc., had helped me a tremendous amount, because I went through these phases of thinking, I'll never be a mum, but then there was something which felt, I'll never give up. You know, there was this thing that just kept me going, and anyone who's gone through IVF. And then you also ask yourself, you know, did you work too hard and that's why you lost the baby, and all those kind of things. But ironically, when I conceived Lila, my partner was in a rehab in America. I had a frozen, embryo, and it worked. It's just weird. It's like when you've let it go entirely off the horizon, it will come back to you. And so my 40s were about reinventing myself a little bit and learning to be a mum. And I think at my late 40s, a lot of things happened to me that were quite impactful on my life. I, stopped doing the filming because I realized I wanted to be at home more. I had an idea for a business, and I'd had this idea that was sitting inside my head for years, which is what Trinny London is. And I was scared to bring it out on the kitchen table. You know, it's very easy if we have an idea and we keep it safe inside our head, it will never fail our dream, but it will always only ever be a dream. And I needed to hold it up to scrutiny and think, could it work? And I had the faith of another woman who was looking to do an SEIS investment, which is taking some taxable income and investing it in small propositions. And she worked in beauty, and she said, Trinny, the idea you have is a really good idea, you should do it. And I think just because she wasn't a close friend, but she was somebody who was our kids went to the same school, I respect her as a businesswoman, I thought, okay, I'll do it. And then I went from living in a house that was too big for me, not on a salary, trying to start a business with very small funding. And I had to kind of just readjust my circumstances. And I thought, what have I got to sell to keep this business going? So I had built up an enormous clothing collection. So I did 3 sales in my house, and I invited Emily's list and lists of friends. And I raised in total about 70,000, 80,000 pounds. You can see how many clothes I bought. But that enabled me to keep that business going, and then I realized I couldn't afford to live in my own house. And making those kind of decisions is tough. You know, anyone who's got separated and you had one quality of life and then you have to kind of change that, the hardest thing is making the decision to do it. Because once you do it, it's tremendously freeing, because to be away from fear of financial insecurity is a very freeing place, and it's like, what do you have to do to get to that place? And so I had my lovely house in Chepstow Place, but you know, I had a £1.8 million mortgage, and I wasn't earning the money I had earned to get that mortgage. You know, I had huge debt, and I then rented it out, rented something small, which then became my office. I'd been by that stage 3 years with my partner, and I thought it's the right time to move in together. I then thought I want to build up this business, and I started seeking outside funding. So things slowly started to come together. And at the same time, I went to see Facebook one day because I thought, you know, what I loved about telly was talking to women, but it was a one-way conversation. And I went to see Facebook, and they said, look, go and just put your bloody screen up on at home. So I put the phone up at home, and I just started in my bathroom talking. And these women started, you know, saying, hi, Trinny, I haven't watched you since 1923, whatever. Where are you now? Are you still alive? And I started building this relationship with these women, and I thought, this is fantastic, because many things came from it, but I just started having the conversation, and I started sharing my routines and then my clothing stuff, and then I started to do Instagram, and I was, funny enough, I was still actually filming a show in Israel, but somebody who was quite good on Instagram said, you know, this is how you should do it, and they taught me a bit about Instagram. And I just thought, for me, actually, I'm all about video, so I made a decision quite early on, a few years ago, I would just, everything would be a film. And then as new tools arrived, you know, there's Instagram Live, and there's Instagram Stories, and there's, you know, and there's now 9 channels a day in which I transmit every day, but it's an amazing community of women. And it's the most exciting stage in my career, and I'm 54. No, am I 54 or 55 now? I was born in 1964. I'm 54. I'm going to be 55 in February. Yes, that's what I was meant to say. But, you know, to be at this age and to be, I have an office which is mainly, apart from Mark, who's my COO, and finance lady and my CTO, everyone is in their 20s or very early 30s. And I thrive off that. I thrive off it, and it frustrates me because, you know, sometimes a millennial will be like tired, and then the one next door to her works unbelievably hard. So everyone is just an individual at the end. But I love their passion, enthusiasm, and I love leading a team. It excites me to lead a team, and I can be a real cunt. You know, I can be tough, and I can just lose it. But I want to instill in them this passion for something I believe in. And Trinny London is, you know, an idea that was in my head, got out on the kitchen table, and it took a long time for me to get that to a place where it launched last October. But I wanted to have a makeup that's portable, personable makeup. I'm going to show you because I can never.
Yeah, we have a slide.
Oh, you've got a slide.
Actually,
but I can show you a stack. There's the stack.
Because I have a slide as
There's
well
the stack. But I spent many years talking to women, and they would all say to me, you know, I go to a makeup counter and I feel misdiagnosed, and I don't know if I trust that woman at Peace Jones in the Lancôme counter to tell me what I should wear or put on. I'm stuck in a rut. I've done the same makeup for 20 years. And I just had many, many, many women talking to me. And I had always found that I'd smudged together my products, and I put them in this little stack from Muji, and I was creating my formulas in my bathroom. And I knew that was the idea that I wanted to get out to women. But it took a long time. It took a long time to do packaging where it snapped, was airtight, locked, looked beautiful, would hold enough product. It took a tremendously long time to get formulas that I was happy with. You know, my BFF took 2.5 years to get that formula, which is my top-selling product. And, you know, I am a perfectionist, and any new things we bring out, you know, if it's not right, I'll put it back and put it back and put it back, and my NPD lady will be like, oh. But it has to be right. I don't want to bring something out for the sake of bringing it out. And that, you know, Trinny London to me is a business where I want it to be a community of women. It's not just a product. And we started on Facebook with the Trinny Tribe. And the Trinny Tribe are a series of women who followed me on Instagram or Facebook or bought the product. But they're very, very behind everything. They do videos to each other about using the product. You know, we do a little events every few months on a new product. They all come. When we go to a new city, they're all there. And it excites me what we can do with this community. And it's about how can you do a business in a different way. You know, for me, beauty has been done the same way for so many years. And you've had a few brands that have come out that have really reinvented beauty. Because I remember when MAC came out. How many of you remember when MAC came out? Put your hands up, Daddy. And you know, before then we'd had a bit of Lancôme, a bit of Chanel, a bit of No. 7, a bit of Miss Selfridge, really bad pink lipstick. I can own up to that one. And so we, you know, suddenly there was this MAC, and it was like 8 things from my 12 were from MAC. It was so exciting. And then there was nothing on the horizon, probably until Charlotte Tilbury, you know, buy into that look and glamorous and glitzy, and you can be like Penelope Cruz or somebody on the red carpet, fantastic. And for me, I have always had that thing, even though I do Botox and I have lots of treatments, that I want women to look their best and not cover themselves, but really look their best. And I have a passion to scrub a woman back and say, how can we make you look fantastic and be you and not be somebody else? And I think many brands want you to be their brand. And I know it sounds weird, but I believe very strongly that I want Trinny London to enable you to be the best you can be you, and whichever version. So to give you all the tools to find out what you want to be. And so we have, you know, on the site, 83 women who show off the products, and they range from 18 to Gail, who is 83. And I love that we don't have any models. I love the fact it's real women. I love that this community is growing and that the possibilities are there. It is also a great responsibility. I did another fundraise, you know, and before I did that fundraise, I'd sold my house by that stage, and I was funding the business because we had cash flow. You know, all these things happen when you're growing a business. And you do have sleepless nights, and you do need to get the balance between, you know, knowing that Lila is growing up feeling loved and protected and happy and safe and inspired, and knowing that my partner is not feeling abandoned for a business. So it is a permanent juggling act, and there are days when I think, you know, I have zero time for me. You know, and time for me, weirdly, is cleaning out my cupboard. Just something which is pedestrian, like I'm culling this January. You know, I'm culling. I did a video on culling scars for 45 minutes 2 days ago. But I took such pleasure in it, and it's my kind of wind down. And then I started to do, again, meditation.
You're so generous. This is what I was going to say. You're so generous and also genuine as well. I think that's probably what attracts your followers. Because you're not afraid to show your face without any makeup. When you wake up in the morning and you're doing your routine, you show your clothes, and also you're sharing the meditation now with your followers. Do you think that's the secret? And also, do you see this maybe possibly as a trend going forward, in the sense that we have all these celebrities that are so big on Instagram, but it seems fake sometimes, and women are looking for more?
I think it's a mixture. I think what's interesting, if we look at the influences we have as women in our lives, when I was in my 20s, it would be the glossy magazines, and it would be, if you had that relationship with your mother, your mum. You know, I have many friends of mine who wear double wear because their mother introduced them to it, or girls in their 20s. You know, you have that thing you pass down. I think funnily enough, different countries have different influences over their daughters. Like, French women are always telling their daughters the secret things to do. I think English women, half of them inherit some stuff from their mum and then want to do the opposite of what they you know, and Americans kind of like share, it's everything, you know. So there's a different way to it, but, you know, those influences have evolved and changed. And the influences before have been very one-way influences and on a pedestal kind of influences. So I think what's fantastic about social media is the opportunity that you can find somebody you relate to and you can have a conversation with them. And you can ask them help and they can think about you. And it's a very different way of communicating. And some of them, you know, are businesses and they need to make money. That is their profession. So the fact that they do an ad for something, if you still like what they do, which isn't an ad, that's a career, you know. So Caroline Hirons, who I love, Nadine Baggett, two kind of middle-aged women who talk about skin a lot, are great, and they have commercial things, and they say it's an ad, and then they talk about what they hate and what they love. Those are authentic women. And there are, in that whole milieu, authentic women. And I did a little thing on Facebook. They have something called Watch, which is like a TV channel, and I just started doing some shows with them. And we did the Trinny taxi show, so we took this yellow cab, which we branded. And I just thought, I want to get these influencers who my daughter's following, get them in the cab and think, are they cool? Are they good influences on my daughter? You know, when I see her, she divides her time between, my daughter will sit on the sofa, be doing Sims, watching NCIS, and Snapchatting. Anyone identify? You know, just that kind of, the way she's absorbing information is nothing I can fight or wish to, because that is what her world is today. Her brain will evolve, you know, in 1,000 years' time. Our short-term memory will be like the smallest peon thing, but that's what she's dealing with. So I just want to see those channels that are coming in. And she also has the ability to absorb something very quickly, but it has to be very short, whereas different generations can spend hours reading a magazine or looking at a TV show. So it's just interesting how it's evolving, and I think there's a mixture, like in anything. You know, there's columnists in the Daily Mail that I think, what a horrible woman. Why is she writing like that? And then there's ones I might follow, or the New York Times, or whatever it is. So it's just another medium communicating information, but what's interesting is it's a two-way street, and I love that about it.
Your business is quite innovative as well. We were talking about the brand, how you came up with the idea of the stacks. And it started as an online business. Now you have in Selfridges, not Selfridges, no, Fenix.
In Fenix, yeah.
Do you think there's space for brick and mortar as well, retail, or how do you see this evolving in terms of the beauty industry and your brand?
I think it's really interesting because we can read everyday articles about how the high street is being destroyed. You know, I live off the King's Road and I go on that thing and I look when I'm walking past and I think, empty, empty, empty. You know, it's really changing. And if you've lived in Kent High Street or King's Road and they're your two things, you notice that difference. And I do feel that, you know, at Christmas I bought nearly everything online because I didn't have time to go in a store. But there's still people who love to make that an outing. And it is irrelevant of age, actually, because I'll have younger people who will come to, we have an at-home in South Kent, like in our office where you can come and have makeovers. And I'll get the physio from Chelsea and Westminster who's age 24 who just says, I just like touching product. And then I'll get 70-year-old women who buy online who we do a personalization called Match to Me. And I wanted to find a way that women could buy online and not have to go into a store to try the color. So it's catching them the moment before and saying, let's look at your skin, hair, and eye combination. And then let's give you a refined palette of the colors that you actually suit. And we've gone over 1,500 women to find that out for you, which nobody else does. So it's a sort of unique thing online. But probably when we occasionally do surveys, 40% of the women we sell to never before bought makeup online. But because of that entry point, they made a decision too. So I think there's room for both. But for me, as a business, when I look at the relationship I have with Fenix, they don't sell a tremendous amount. They don't do online, so there's no competition for me online. The customer is somebody who really likes to go in store and doesn't shop so much online. So that's a customer who might want to try my products, but doesn't have the opportunity, so therefore I want to give her that opportunity. But when she goes in store, I want her to realize what an online brand we are and to feel a comfort around that and to engage her in that. So the first thing she does is there's a little iPad. She does her Match to Me with a consultant. We email her that kind of return. She's then registered in our system. Then she can leave there with the products in a traditional way she shopped, but know that when she goes online again, she's comfortable. We've made a home for her on the site. She can go and start to shop and feel comfortable. And I see those bricks and mortars as that experience. And also, you need to offer experiences. We hear a lot about, you know, like Saks in America and all these department stores realizing that in order to compete against online, they have to offer something online can't provide, which is that experience. And for me, I like the idea that you book a 45-minute appointment, you come into the store, we will really look at you, we'll you know, do one side of your face and you do the other side. We want to educate you, we want you to leave feeling, I can do it. You know, the amount of times I've sat at a beauty counter, somebody's done my makeup, and I got home and I thought, how on earth? First of all, I get the products out and I thought, which is which? Where does it go? And then, how can I do that? I can't do that. And I don't want anyone to leave without feeling, I can do it. So it's offering those different things where, you know, I have to boast because it was so nice, but like in the last month, we launched in Fenix in London, but we were 1 or 2 in beauty in that store. And we're a tiny business, and there was Chanel, and there's NARS, and Charlotte Tilbury, and MAC. And that was very exciting, and you know, look at it, and I think it's because that customer goes in and they see, first of all, bums on seats, because when we have this appointment system, it means that when you go in the store, you already see customers there. So I'm interested when I look at a counter where, if it's totally empty, I'm scared that the salesperson is going to jump on me. But if I see there's people sitting in a chair and there's a bit of buzz, I'm drawn to it. So it's creating that as an environment is really important, yeah.
And it's very new. I mean, it's creamy, no powder.
No powder.
And you can do it with your hands.
You can do it with your hands.
This is also something that you it's
and you know, many women might be used to brushes, and we have techniques we might have done for years, but for me, I want to be able to do my whole face and do it with my fingers, because I feel we can have a much better relationship with our skin. And I've always felt with a brush, you can put quite a bit of powder on, or you just do this, you know, the bronzer. Bronzers is something a woman picks up and she goes, "Zhup, I feel better." And she's either that woman, there aren't many in between women, or she's a woman who hates sun and bronzer and everything, and like, you are that woman, you like, you know. So. But we have, you know, categories you fill into, and which is beautiful. And so I want to say to women, don't pick up that brush, which could have been, let's be honest, in the bottom of your makeup bag with your coins. And go, I feel better. Because to me, it will flatten your face. And even though you're very used to that's what makes you feel better, I want to introduce you to a new solution. I want to be able to say, you know what, a bit of blusher and maybe some gel bronzer, but there's another way. And there is nothing more satisfying than getting people who've got stuck in a rut. And people get stuck in a rut at many age groups. So if you had acne in your teens, in your 20s, and I've met lots of women, you have one menopausal spot, perimenopausal spot. It's not, I wouldn't call it acne. Anyone who's had real spots, look at your skin and go, excuse me, where? But it's all subjective. So I appreciate your feeling, I've got a spot. But in their 20s, those women are still caking themselves in foundation. You might have daughters who do that, you know, and you think, why are they wearing so much makeup? Their skin is so lovely. Show me your skin. And it's just, how can you then get someone who's so used to something and take it away from them and give them an alternative that they can fall in love with. And that's kind of a bit of a mission for me too. And then, you know, I used to always go on British Airways flights and be able to look at the stewardesses and know the decade in which they felt they're most attractive and start to do a makeup routine, because that was the routine they were still doing. And that's what many women do. And, you know, many women who picked up the bronzer brush in the late 80s, that was their way to feel better, and it was a great trick. And you just keep it, we do what we know, you know? We do what we know.
You have this eye, right? And one thing that is interesting, I think, to see, and you had this with Susanna as well, do you think that you sometimes have become kind of a psychologist because you have done this makeover routine with so many women and around the world, right? And they have this common thread as well with hopes and fears. And do you think that people approach you in a way that they have already know you and they can confide in you and they can ask for advice?
I think I've always felt that, and I love that. So if anyone ever bumps into me, like on Instagram, they say, I saw you and thing, but I didn't come up. I always like, come up, chat, let's chat. But I think women do feel they can come up and ask me anything. I'll be in Zara, King's Road Zara, and somebody say, Trinny, shall I buy this? Or, did you get this, Trinny? It's really good. You know, and I love that. I love that we're a community. I love that community. But I think also, because I probably, in 25 years that I've been doing this, have made over thousands of women, I do feel very much that how we do our makeup and how we do our hair and what we wear says so much about who we are as women. And so I could line up 20 women and I'd kind of know what's going on with them a little bit by how they're doing that. And that's just how much we, you know, a lot of women, by hiding what they don't like, don't show off enough what they like. And it's very easy for someone to look in the mirror and think, I don't like that, so I'll hide that, and then not think, but actually that's wonderful. So the art of women with each other saying, you know, like I look at you and I know you have an issue around your tummy, okay? And your upper thigh, I know that. But I know also that you have phenomenal skin. And I know too that you have a big boob. I'm just being really frank, that when you were at school was difficult for you.
No, because I was skinnier. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you have a...
I was...
Yeah, but the thing is...
Yeah, two sizes less.
It's like you've chosen a color which is beautiful, but you're covering more than you could be showing off.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And how long have you... I'm just throwing it...
We're doing one not to wear.
How long have you had the haircut?
The haircut, oh my God. I don't know, it's longer now, a little bit, so.
But the shape?
A while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just saying it. Just saying it. Just saying it. Mess you up a bit. But it's just we need to look at ourselves differently. You know, it's like I want to soften that a little bit. I want to get rid of a bit of the thing.
All right.
And I want to give you more of that. You know, it's just I think that my issue probably more is I've got to know when to shut up. I really do, because I kind of think, I know how much better this is going to be for them, and I really have this emphatic belief, otherwise I wouldn't be so extreme and eccentric, but I need to know if I know they're ready for it, or ready for change.
Wow, this is a dream, because I used to watch What Not to Wear years ago, and I would say, I would love them to, go through my wardrobe, and I was much skinnier then.
But it's not about weight.
But we always have issues,
Yeah,
right?
but it's also not about weight,
We always
because
have issues.
in the audience we've got Chloe, and I don't know how many of you follow me on Instagram, but on Friday we do this Friday twinning. And Chloe is 14, 16, which is actually UK average size, all right? Because 46% of women are a size 16 above and in the UK. And so it kills me that Zara actually decides at a 14, which really is that a 14? Huh, it's a 12. You know, how there is that, it's harder. But what we try to do every Friday is just show, because Chloe also has incredible body confidence. And it's fantastic that she has that. And just showing that off and giving, and also I think that's what's great about Instagram, because there are many women who are those unusual ballsy women of different shapes and sizes who are making a stake in the ground. And so if you feel you identify, there's people to identify with, and there's some, like the one who does the Catia Dal twinning, what's her name? The one we were talking today about, the chaffing thigh cream. There's a very funny lady anyway, but she's American, but she's probably a size 18, and she's hilarious, and she copies celebrities' looks, as they come out being papped, and she'll do exactly the same look. And she's just so funny, and I love that. I love seeing these things.
Your website does have different kind of ages and types, and it's fantastic. So I think the audience definitely wants to ask questions. So let's go to the...
Hello.
Where are the mics?
Yes.
Ladies. Where are the mics? We do have mics.
Okay. But you could shout for now whilst we're getting the mic.
Social media 20-year-old daughter who, God bless, does not have 50-year-old skin. So you mentioned treatments, you mentioned Botox. Is there something that you have found that you've done, whether it be a treatment, a laser, or product that has really benefited your skin?
I think for me, there's no one thing, but I'll take you through briefly what I've done. So when I was 35, I was doing telly, and my forehead moved like it had a life of its own. And somebody said, you can do this thing which will stop your forehead moving, and that's how I was introduced to Botox. Dr. Seabag, who spoke no English and was the rudest Frenchman ever, had a little place not in Wimpole Street, and he went, horrible. But he's a fantastic man, but he was just so distasteful. And so he shoved this stuff in, and then I went home, and my forehead didn't move, and I thought, this is fantastic. So I hadn't then developed lines. So I did Botox then twice a year, and I still do it today. So that probably has prevented me, having forehead lines, things like that. And then over the years, I've tried different things, like I do the vampire facial once a year, which is, that taking the plasma out and putting it in. And I do ultra, which is a laser, which I do once or twice a year. It's quite painful, but it kind of tightens a bit the skin. It's a laser. And when I had very bad acne, which I had until I was 29, and I did Roaccutane for a year, when I got over that acne, aged 32, I did a CO2 peel, then was very strong. You had to stay in the house for 2 weeks to try and get rid of some of my scarring. Yeah. And so those are the major things that I've done. But the thing I think is most important is the simplest things as well. So, and I don't think it's also too late to start, because I have many women who start a routine because maybe they're following me in their 50s, and they say, I really feel the difference. And that's cleaning your skin and then cleaning your skin again. I exfoliate my skin every single day. I do granular exfoliation in the morning, and I do an acid toner at night. I have an obsessive skincare routine, and anyone who's had spots might have that. Somebody who's naturally had good skin has a lazier skincare routine, because like Susanna, you know, she'd go to bed, face full of makeup, 2 whiskeys, wake up next morning, baby's bottom skin. You know, it's like, oh, please. But some of us are not blessed with those genes. I equally think, and I believe strongly in, microneedling. And I've done that for 10 years, and that's taking a needle, which is on a roller, and some of you might have had it done dermatologists, but I do a 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.5 needle, and the number of needles on the barrel is important because you want a kind of roll which is going to prick your skin but not pierce your skin. Any of you who've done this will understand it, but I do that twice a week, and then whatever product I put in, which is where I spend my money on active ingredients, which to me are retinol and vitamin C, it will go 300% deeper. So a cream I might have spent £70 on will work much, much better. So I will do a regime, I did it last night, and I will microneedle, I'll then put a little peel on sometimes, and then I'll put on a retinol or vitamin C. And so I have I've never, ever, ever gone to bed without taking my makeup off since I was 29. And I really massage my skin. It sounds weird, but I do. You think, when do I have time to do this? But sitting on the loo in the morning, I'm doing this, you know? I'm just pinching. It's like you're going to the gym, you're looking after your bodies, they're staying a bit toned. You know, we are fighting gravity, and there's that chicken stuff coming and the chicken stuff coming, but we're fighting it, and, you know, we're toning it and things. But our face needs that too. There's a company called Face Gym, but that's exactly what they do, really, and charge quite a lot of money for, but they're kind of great if you can afford it. But that's what I do, and I slap, and I do my scissors, and that is getting blood to the surface. It's really, you know, the things like also the vampire facial, when you're in your late 20s, you stop producing collagen. So in order to get that collagen production back, it only comes if you do something to the skin where the skin has to react and protect itself. So microneedling is that. Those kind of processes are that. So I do believe in that. I have a very, very strong regime. And I have, you know, products I recommend on Trinny. On Trinny London, I have this thing called Secret 7. I do vitamin C's, retinols, everything. So I kind of think it's a whole mixture. But I also believe that it's makeup, because I have many women who have done powder for many years. And to me, that takes, if you do quite a lot of it, takes the life out of your skin after a certain age. So, you know, at the moment, my skin is glowy. I have BFF on, it gives it that gentle glow, but I'm not covering it. And I blusher more than bronzer, and I think that makes such a huge difference on women too. So it's a mix. It's a long answer, sorry, but I just think it's good to just give you the...
She looks great. Can I do a bit of PR? I think it's worth following her on Instagram and Trinny London, also the websites, because your videos are just... And there's also a sense of humor, I have to say. So it's very fun. It's fun to watch. And I think it's important to let people know you don't get paid by these companies to review the products.
I mean, the thing is, my kind of thing is, I feel I talk quite a lot about Trinny London because it's my passion. I think it can help women, and the women who follow me sort of know that. That's the give and take. Oh, she's going to go and do a makeup routine now, but then I'm going to go shopping for you in Zara, and I'm going to go up to Selfridges, and I'm going to try skincare routines, and I don't take payment or accept things from anyone. Because I have a business. If I didn't have a business, I probably would, because that's the way I'd make money. So yeah. Next question.
Oh, hi. Thank you for those
nice
secrets.
red gloves.
Thanks. It's a little cold back here. But do you have any advice for this bit?
I mean, I was in India over Christmas, and maybe it was the bright lighting in the mirrors, but I suddenly thought, oh, my neck is going. You know, that moment you wake up, last week it wasn't going, and today it's gone. And I then had a ravenous attack of how can I deal with it. But I have a grandmother who taught me this simple thing, which I do also do, which is A, E, I, O, U. Sounds so simple, but it's the movement of your neck. It's actually, you're doing that. A. So when you do the A, just all try it. When you do the A, you go A, feel that clavicle. Okay, and then E, 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 feel that one? There. I, feel down here. I, O, feel the deep inside there. O, you, pulling it up. You go you and you pull it up. You. Okay? It helps, ladies, all right? It really helps. So there are simple things like that, no harm. Another one, who's got sagging eyelids? Okay, this is something I do when I'm sitting on the loo in the morning. I get my 2 middle fingers and I push them up. You can do it, those of you who feel you have that sagging eyelid, and show it to your friend, whoever you're sitting next to. Just show them the eyelid now. So turn around, just show them your eyelid now. And then get those fingers, 2 middle fingers, like you're going to say, bad driver, and push up in the middle of your eyebrow and put a certain amount of pressure on there. And then what I want you to do is you're going to close your eyes tightly shut and open them. Feel the tension that's given your lid, all right? And I want you to do that now 30 times, keeping the pressure on your upper eyelid. And we're going to do it like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep pressing on the eyelid. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Close really hard and open. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You might look stupid, but don't worry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. Let go.
Yay!
Okay. But that is an area of our face we never do anything with. Like whenever, for 20 years, I do my serums, etc. I'd never put them there. And then I noticed my mum, who's never done any kind of makeup stuff, and my mum, I noticed how dry that was. So now, in the last few years, I now put my serum here, whatever it is, and I even do a tiny microneedling there, and I do that because I don't want that, because these bits are what kind of age make us feel, okay, if those two were looking okay, we'd feel better about the rest of the face. So the other thing I do is I do microneedling on my neck. And the skin on your neck is very different from the skin on your face. There's a word for it beginning with a K, but anyway. And so I do my little microneedling, and then I am trying out different retinols on my neck, and I think that will help. So massage, a little microneedling, and some good retinols. And the thing I'd quickly say about retinol, because it's a very overused word, and there's many different retinols. And there's ones that say I'm 1% or I'm 5%, but depending on what they're diluted in, lots of diluted in squalane and different things, sometimes a 1% can be stronger than a 2% diluted in something else because the dilution affects the quality of the retinol. And retinol, if you use a really proper retinol, you will have, after 8 weeks, you'll be thinking, this is torturous and my skin looks dry and horrible. And you have to break through that period. So kind of, if you do literally a 3-month rotation, you can start on your neck, it's easier. You will then, after 8 weeks, begin to see a real renewal of your skin. And so that's what I'd say. Long answer for the neck, but I think we all are aware of our neck, so I'm just going to say it. Otherwise, polar necks are scarves, but I think that's very difficult because we want to do the covering of the neck when we're feeling our hottest. So it just doesn't always work. Yeah. Yep.
Another one? Another one? No? Oh, there, in the back.
Yes. What's in the stacks? So, I've got here, what have I got in here? This is my day-to-day stack. So in here is Trintron, which is my foundation concealer. So I can just touch that up, because I'm sure in my eye thing I probably put my mascara on the bottom. And it's a cream-based foundation concealer. Then here I've got, a new product I can't talk to you about yet. And here I've got a new lip cheek we'll bring out next week, which is called Lady J. All the products are named after women in my life.
Oh, yeah,
and Lady J is the lady I talked to you about who had faith in my business. Her name is Jane, which is a bit of a boring name. So I said, can we do Lady J? It sounds more glam. So she said, yeah. And that's a lip cheek, so I'm going to put that on there, like that. And then I've got at the bottom here, Lila. If I don't have Lila, she gets really mad. And that's a lip glow. Put that on the bottom. And I always usually take the end of the lip glow and I put it on my cheek, because then it gives that really lovely little glow to my cheek. And so I could then have Moon on, which is the one I've used for my eye, and that would be my makeup. And I'll have done it in 2 seconds. It's incredibly easy. So it contains every single thing apart from mascara and brow, which is a project in progress. And so you just buy individually, and you just snap them together, and you create your own stack.
Are you thinking about launching skincare products as well?
I am doing some research now on things to do with other projects.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you name the products after, your friends, and that's an interesting twist as well.
I mean, I felt that, I would always go to Laura Mercier and think, what was that called, that lip gloss, Bellini, champagne, whatever. And I have a lot of women who have really got me through different stages in my life, and I kind of want to remember them. And it's odd that I see them less when there are times in our lives where we feel we're so focused on something, we maybe don't see so much of our friends. And I think I'm old enough now that I know they're always there. But I talk to them every day through the products. And I remember them every day, and then I remember who to call. So lip glows, Lila's domain. So I said, Lila, you can name the lip glows because they're a girly thing. So she had, she was going from middle school to big school, and I said, you've got to make sure these are friends for life, because I can't have you suddenly not liking Cordy, And so that's a work in progress for her. We've got 6 lip glows, and she's got 6 really close friends. The lip luxes are people who are really women I've known in my life for a long time. So Susanna is Suze, and Tashi is a girl called Natasha Drax, and Eugenie is a woman I've known for many years. And then you've got Pookie, who's my niece, who always wears a bright bougainvillea lip. Swainy is Annie Swain, who worked with me for years on the Trinny and Susanna shows, and that's a bright red. And Demon is a mad woman who's a friend of mine called Amanda Eliash, who always wears a bright red lip, and she'll wear a black tie outfit literally on the beach, and I always think of her. So these just all inspire. And then Shasha, who is our chief makeup artist, I said to her, you do the eye colors, because she's phenomenal on eye color, and they're all tarot cards, because she's kind of into that stuff. So,
and there's Chloe as well.
And there's Chloe. And so the lip to cheeks were women who were working with us. So Federica and Chloe are the 2 women who started working in the business with me, and Chloe and Federica both came as interns. Now Chloe is in charge of social media, and Federica is operations manager. So it's really nice seeing those women grow in the business.
So to finish, what would you say to our audience? A lot of ladies here probably, they have children who left home, empty nesters and things like that. And maybe they're considering, they have their own companies as well. And maybe they are considering, relaunch themselves, reinvent themselves, relaunch a company. What would you say to them?
I'd say that thing I probably learned the most there's 2 things. That one is an ironic one, to say, and I always used to say this, which is 98% of everything you worry about never happens. The person who told me, though, that did something that I really wish they hadn't done, and they did it. They died, basically, but not in a nice way. But it's ironic, but it always got me through, just got me through things. And so I kind of think about them and that. And probably for me is that I never know what's behind the closed door. And when I'm feeling a bit flat and I don't know, whether it's about relationships or your children's relationship or work or your partner, that I shouldn't presume, because opportunities through my life have come from the most unexpected places, and not places that I would have thought is where they're coming from. So it's to give yourself the breathing space for those opportunities to come, and to remember this thing when you're feeling really flat, because I think we all need that. Anyway. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Trinny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.